9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Hello my cartooners, and welcome to another video of Val's Basement. And today we're gonna be talking... God damn it, I played the wrong video. Well, Happy New Year everyone! Which means it's time for another list of the best songs of the present year. Yeah, considering how much fun I had doing the 2021 video, I thought I would turn this into a yearly tradition of talking about my favorite songs of each year. So yeah, I'll be doing this for the rest of the decade maybe, and also if you guys are interested, maybe I'll make one for a past year, I don't know. Last video before I started off with the list, I talked about my general thoughts of the year and my experience with it, but this time we'll be doing it differently, as in, I'll get to the list first and then I'll conclude the video with my general thoughts of 2022. So let's not waste any time, let's get started. This year was the first time that I ever listened to anything by Asian Glow, who did a collaboration album with Parano last year, which I haven't listened yet. But the album that they released this year was great, even though it immediately has shrunk on me on re-listen. It actually used to be one of my favorite albums of 2022. Still, there's plenty of work on it, like this song. The best thing about it for me is just the insane harmony of all layers of guitars and drums, which I think is immediately immersive once you hear it. And that sound, I think it's also very ethereal in some places. Even the songwriting is not bad, even though I do feel like it could be better, but still, it's pretty great. Well, after 5 years, Kendrick has finally returned with an okay album, I suppose. I mean, here's the thing, people like Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers, but really the true critical darling of his was a song that wasn't even on the record, The Heart Part 5, which almost made it to the list, but I decided to go instead with one of the few songs that I actually found pretty great in the album itself, which is called Mother I Suffer. One of my favorite things of his new album was just how much more personal and family oriented a lot of it was focused on. And I think this song exemplifies that the most well. This is a very emotionally driven and slow paced track that deals with his trauma and his family history in a very delicate way. His performance feels very genuine, the piano beat is also really nice. Even the chorus with Beth Gibbons from Portishead is pretty too, even though I could do without the background vocals. Definitely the best song of his new album for me. So I'm not a person who cares all that much for conscious hip-hop, even though I don't really have any problems with it, but still I cannot deny the brilliance of Aquamarine. First of all, I love how atmospheric the beat is. It's definitely interesting and gives kind of a unique spacey vibe to the song. And when it comes to the verses and flows, it also really shines. Black Dot just gives great lines after great lines. The first verse is great, the second one is honestly even better. Like he's just giving his all and the flow feels perfectly tight too. I don't really have much else to say, this is just a great song. Waste Blood makes their return this year with an album that, while it's not quite as good as Titanic Rising, it's still very good and carries a lot of the qualities from the other, like Children of the Empire. Just like many Waste Blood songs, it's beautiful, gorgeous and grand. The Taylor's vocals feel very prominent here by just the amount of passion and purity there is to them. And I like how the lyrics that talk about humanity's mistakes in the past are executed in kind of an anthemic way, which I appreciate. I don't even think anthemic is the right word to describe it, but I don't know, I think in general it just does it very well and in a very unique way that only Waste Blood is only able to make it. Well, it's time to talk about one of the few King Gizzard songs on the list. Yeah, this is not the only one. King Gizzard has, in my opinion, made a significant return to form throughout 2022, returning to a lot of the things that made him great to begin with, and putting quality album after quality album. ISB comes from the first album that they released during the month of G-Stuffer, which was when they released 3 albums throughout October, as the name will imply. This is arguably one of the grooviest songs of the year, from the vocals to how the song starts to most of the song, which is just a lengthy jammy fusion of psychedelic rock and jazz rock. It feels like a song that's always writing itself, and it's probably the best song of the record for me. Yeah, and by the way, you should check the album too. So I think this is the year that made me turn around on Duster. Don't get me wrong, I never disliked them, but the album together particularly was definitely a very pleasant surprise, and I mean that literally too, because this was a surprise release indeed. Family Feels is just a crushing and very depressive song generally, mainly this time instrumentally, with the memorable lonely riff, the compressed rich lo-fi production, and the pure rawness and somber tone to it. It's a vibe to say the least. Melt My Eyes Hit the Future, even though I haven't really checked that many hip hop albums this year, might be my favorite rap release of 2022, which is an album that I don't really have many problems with. Walking in particular is an awesome song. I'll start off with Denzel Curry, whom I think has one of the most smooth flows that I've heard throughout this year, and it's present as ever. He has a lot of great bars like
life isn't ice cream without Monopoly dough.
Or
I never do my team green, make the team green like the Celtics.
And it ties the concept of struggling through life nicely. Like, I just love the amount of confidence Denzel Curry delivers here. So at this point it seems unlikely that Radiohead will ever return for another studio album, and I mean, Amunche Pool is not a bad way to go off. Ending your discography with True Love Waits, one of the most depressing and emotional songs, but also a song that's been in development since 1995. I mean, that's a long time. Wait, why am I talking about Radiohead again? Oh yeah, The Smile. A new form band by Tom York, Johnny Greenwood, and Tom Skinner. So basically 2 of the 5 Radiohead members plus Tom Skinner released their debut album in May of 2022. Even though the album itself doesn't have the same level of size as the best songs of most Radiohead albums, it's still filled with consistently really good tracks, and the best one of those is Free in the Knowledge. The first thing to notice is just how smooth and nice Tom York sounds here. Like, it's great to note that even after 30 years he still sounds as fresh and good as ever. The song also has great instrumentation that's generally atmospheric and mellow. Honestly, if they continued on The Smile, I wouldn't even bother. Radiohead had already secured themselves as an all-time band for me, so yeah. Black Midi returns again this year, and it seems like they haven't lost their greatness. Between old songs from Hellfire, I decided to go with the song Sugar TCU. Carrying over a lot of the inventiveness of Cavalcade, Sugar TCU is a chaotic and fast-paced tune from start to finish, with an awesome arpeggio, and of course the manic energy that is always present throughout and never fades away. It's one of their songs that represents Black Midi as one of the most interesting acts of the 2020s. For the next of my King Gizzard picks, we have Gaia, a song from their 80-minute album that feels like a great throwback to the album Infest the Rat's Nest. The song has a great and big riff that not only carries the song throughout, but the vocals are fun and the drums constantly are giving the song a lot of punch. It's one of the songs that definitely cements 2022 as their comeback year, for sure. Yeah, I mean, I don't know what else to add really. It's just a great track. Well, now that we're cracking to the top 10, I must say, wow. I never thought that this will happen, but I think Animal Collective has returned to making good albums again. Yeah, I mean, throughout the 2010s, they had a very rough period of releasing projects that were just not very good. Centipede HC had some good ideas, but the album as a whole was just a badly produced mess that most of the time felt like it struggled to get a soundscape properly, and Painting With was just kind of forgettable. But their new album is pretty good, and I think part of that is that it's not really trying to throw so much at you. The band is usually known for their great experimentation, sure, but it started to backfire in the past decade, and I think an album like this, where it feels like they just humbled themselves down and made something nice and chill, was definitely the step that they needed. The song in particular is my favorite song of the album, just because of how pristine and soothing it is. One of their most well-crafted songs in general. It's very moving, the vocals are relaxing, the little subtle drops are appreciated too. It's a song that I just don't really have any problems with. It's really, really good. Gospel, just like Duster, was another band that I never thought that would return this year. Now, unlike Duster, where this was the year where I started to love them, Gospel I was already a big fan of. The Moon is a Dead World is an amazing album and one of my favorites from 2005. It's an album that blends progressive rock, post-hardcore and screamo perfectly, but also goes all in, making for a constantly entertaining and adventurous album as a whole. And it seems like they still have that spark. While in their 2022 album it was definitely not as good, I think it still carries over a lot of the qualities like the song Dear Ghost, the amount of accelerating riffs, how adventurous it still feels, the inventive songwriting. It's all great, and in my opinion this is the biggest highlight of their comeback album. The next of the King Gizzard picks is Change, the title track to the last album that they released throughout 2022, aka the last album of G-Stover. I love how even after releasing over 22 albums, they still find ways to create sounds that they're able to perfectly adapt to their style while still feeling fresh. There's a lot of things to love from this song. The prog synths are wonderful, the general lush and low-key sound is honestly kind of gorgeous, and I definitely love the last minute where the guitars come in and create this grand climax that doesn't feel like it's distancing itself too much from the rest. The rest of the album is almost as good, but I decided to go with this one because I feel like it represents the album the most well, on top of being the one with the most replay value for me. Just like Black Midi, Black Country New Road is another band from this genre, or I guess era of rock, that came back this year. And they came back with an album that people absolutely loved, and by this point can be cemented itself as one of the definitive classics of this decade so far. I personally prefer their debut a little more, but you know, I get the hype. The place where he inserted the blade is probably the most emotionally driven song on the record, to the point where even the instruments radiate a lot of emotion as well. He has a lot of grand melodies, the vocals are very extremely passionate and resonate a lot, the piano melodies are also pretty great. It's all around a ride of emotion, and the lyrics themselves definitely feel kind of vague in the best way, even if I get the impression that it's definitely based on the pain from a relationship. Well, this is from an artist that I don't really have much knowledge of. Regardless, I remember liking this song a lot when I first heard it, but it has managed to grow on me quite a lot when I re-listened to all of the songs in preparation for this video. This is just a very cohesively, naturally written song all around that has a very pensive, melancholy vibe that I just love. It just works so well here, especially on the incredible harmony between the drums and the main riff. And the song gets even better on the 3-minute mark in the drop where the guitars become a lot more shoegazy. It's a simple but beautiful drop that just elevates the song to being one of my absolute favorites of this year. I guess if there's one little problem that I have with it though, is that the vocals, even though they're not bad per se, they still feel kind of unremarkable. I don't know, it doesn't really downgrade my enjoyment that much, but they're just fine, like they don't really have any sticking qualities to them. So we're coming back to Ants from Up There. As great as the place where he inserted the blade was, my favorite song has always been Basketball Shoes. It's a perfect closer to the album in terms of emotional weight and grandiosity, but it's also a pretty amazing song on its own. And I think the best thing about the song for me is just how ambitious it feels. Like from the songwriting that feels very grand and giant and big, and how much it attacks you with its cinematic post-rockish ending. It feels like a song that takes all of these strengths from the record and builds all that together to a rewarding conclusion. Like all the pieces are here, everything is launched at its fullest, especially in the emotion and the intensity. Definitely one of Black Country's best songs. This one is just a rush. This is the point of the video where we're getting to the songs that I just find nearly perfect. I mean, where to even start with this one? The astonishing fusion of a lot of genres like jungle pop, dream pop, and noise pop, the pure vividness, how the song feels so alive, the chorus itself which is amazing and really catchy, the female vocals that bring a lot of lush emotion, and even little things like the transition from the bridge to the chorus that it's just lovely. Just like with Denzel Curry, I need to explore more of Albay's discography because I feel like she might become one of my favorite artists of the last few years, and not just because of this song itself, but the album itself might actually be my favorite album of 2022. I'm not even kidding, it's so good. Wow, I didn't expect this one to rank so high. So as I mentioned previously, I listened to all of the songs that I thought might be or definitely were eligible for this list, and from all of them, this was the one that grew on me the most. I think I might go even as far as to say that this is the best Beach House song. A band that I generally like but not love, but still, not to discredit the song itself, I really love this one. Superstar feels like one of the most subtle approaches from the band at the sound they usually aim for. You know, something beautiful, ethereal and colorful. It doesn't feel forced at all, and out of all the songs that I've heard from them, this is one of the few songs that explores its sound further from the surface. This is a problem that I have with the band, in that a lot of their songs feel kind of surface level, but Superstar is definitely not one of those. Simulation Swarm is to me an example of a song that's simple but also kind of perfect. As in, everything this song aims to do, it succeeds, and even the vocals, which at first I was a little skeptical of, I practically have zero problems with now. Again, it's a little perfect song that I think it's going to age perfectly for me in the future. So far, one of my favorite songs of even the whole decade, and as far as folk rock songs from the decade go, this one might be my favorite as well. Yeah, I mean, I knew this was going to be number one since the day I've heard this. I've talked about how there were going to be several King Gizzard songs on this list and how they made a comeback throughout 2022. How the King Gizzard that I knew at their best made a triumphant return. Wait, I don't think I've said that, but still. And the song that absolutely showcases that the most is on the first song from their 20th album, that's basically also their anniversary album. Although I'll get to later why that is. But yeah, the Dripping Tap is the masterpiece, an 18-minute long monster of a song that might be also, in my opinion, their magnum opus. The song is filled with so many of their strengths I knew the band for. The endless amazing riffs on top of other amazing riffs, the insane energy, the incredible fusion of acid rock and psychedelic rock, the chaotic songwriting and tone. But the song also has its own share of strengths as well, mainly the adventurous songwriting. Like, it begins with a slow, chilled intro that leads to it suddenly exploding to a ferocious and frantic song, but the whole song also never stops its pace. It goes all in and builds up without losing its energy, and throughout it just gets you lost jamming the fuck out of the entire runtime. When I first saw the tracklist for Omnium Gatherium at first, I noticed something different, and not just how long the album was, but also that the first song, which is the one that I'm talking about if you haven't noticed by now, was 18 minutes long. I think the only time they ever made a song close as long was Head on Pill, and this one is even longer. And after listening to all of it, it just makes sense to me. The whole album, and especially this song, feels like it was celebrating everything great about King Gizzard in one whole package. Like, seriously, this song, not it just being the first one on the album, but also being the first single that was released from the record, was just a perfect decision. So yeah, I mean, this is not only my favorite song of 2022 without a doubt, but I'll go even as far as to say it's my favorite song of the whole decade so far. It's just an absolute triumph in every way. Well, and that was the list. So you must be wondering now, what were my general thoughts on this year for music? Well, the first question that comes to mind is, was this year better than 2021? Not really. After listening to every song on this list, I think I realized that it was a little better than I gave it credit for, but still, it feels like a year that didn't really move the decade that forward to me. If anything, I think it depended on a lot of the things that 2021 did, but a little worse. 2022 was good, but I feel like we still haven't even gotten close to the peak of this decade yet. I don't know, I feel like the decade is still missing something, maybe an identity. I mean, I guess it's still too early to say since we're only 3 years in. Maybe a definitive movement it's missing, or maybe that we're currently in a rather rough era of mainstream pop. Yeah, I'm not even going to touch on that because it kind of deserves a video on its own. But, I mean, still, it definitely was a year that could have been better. As for my favorite and least favorite album of this year, well, just like the last year, I have a ranked list on Rate Your Music if you want to check that out, but just for the sake of it, my favorite album was Blu-ray by All Bass, which was actually one of the very few last albums from this year that I've heard. Never too late, I suppose. And as for my least favorite... God damn it, Muse, how did you become so bad? And lastly, for 2023, there's not necessarily a lot of albums that I'm exactly excited for yet, but for now, these two come to mind. And maybe Swans, because they said they were planning to release it on early 2023, but we don't have a confirmed date yet. So I don't know, I guess we'll have to see. Same for the next year generally. But yeah, I mean, I don't know what else to say. Thank you for watching this video, and I'll see you on the next Spell Spaceman episode. Get the fuck away from here!
Okay, now get this stuff out of my parents' house. No, Tim, you're the one who asked for my help. I didn't ask you for. Shh, you don't have to thank me, Tim. All right, I'm gonna get out of here. I'm gonna go upload this to iTunes. But I thought this was my viral song. You thought this was gonna be? No, it's not gonna be viral. It's a terrible song. I'm telling you how to do it yourself, and that's why I charge $500. Where did you get $500? Oh, your voice is so annoying, man. It's so annoying.